One minute I was doing the weights, and then the next thing I remember was I just being wheeled. I mean, there's nothing in between that I remember at all.
I was in my office that morning, and Carson came running up stairs past my office screaming, "Call 911, call 911." And I jumped up and asked her what was wrong, and she said, "Glenn is down."
We heard, help, help, help.
That day kind of started out like any other, just came to work. Later in the day, about mid-afternoon is when I usually come down to the exercise room here and work out. Well, it's kind of funny because I didn't, have the classic symptoms. I didn't have any of the pain or numbness in the arm or really any other symptoms that you normally hear about. I mean, I was just kind of tired. And I had gotten the weights and started to exercise. And I just remember about doing 2 of them, 2 lifts. And the next thing I knew, I was being wheeled into the ambulance.
I raced down the stairs and entered the room and found Glenn laying on the floor, halfway on the exercise equipment, halfway on the floor.
My boss was talking from his desk, shouting to me, giving instructions to 911, what's his condition, what's he doing now, things like that. And kind of in the middle of that discussion, he quit breathing. And at the time, he was on the weight bench, kind of half on, half off the bench. While we moved him, rolled him down to the floor. We started CPR. I broke open the AED. By that time, we had a few other employees in here helping.
Once Dave had the defibrillator ready, I hooked the defibrillator up to Glenn, and no pulse. And we wanted to make sure there's no pulse before we operated the defibrillator. And so we shocked him. He jumped off the floor, and still nothing. So went back to CPR, doing CPR on Glenn, and still no response. At that time, Dan Kite was on the other side of Glenn, and I had Dan take over CPR, and I grabbed Glenn's mouth and opened his mouth and pulled his tongue out. And right as I did that, Glenn just, his eyes came open, and he was back. We had him back.
When Glenn woke up, opened his eyes, and you know he was okay, or at least better than he was. I was just immediately relieved. It's like, all right, okay, we got a real good chance.
In any company, your biggest resource is your people, and you want to protect your people, and this is a small investment by putting these AEDs here in case something would happen.
We had CPR training and AED training through the company. That was a few years before this.
I went through CPR training provided by AMT here at PDC, and I would recommend that to any and all workplaces, to have CPR trained employees and have defibrillators with easy access.
It proved that the technology worked in a real world situation here in our office, and that's an example and a story that needs to be told, because other people should hear that it works and it's real, and you don't get a second chance at stuff like that. You have the technology there or you don't.
After it was all over, Matt Coulter pulled me in his office and said, "Hey, you just saved Glenn's life."
If it hadn't been for the AED, as well as the CPR, I wouldn't be here today. So if we hadn't, checked the AED to make sure that it was working correctly, I never would have come out of my fatal rhythm of the heartbeat. So I needed that to stop my heart so that the brain could restart it. And so between the AED and the CPR. I'm here today to talk about it, and also some other, I guess, happy events. I was able to attend my daughter's wedding in September of 16, and to be there for my granddaughter's arrival in October of this year. So I'm thankful for, my fellow employees who came to my rescue and helped me bring me back to life.